At a busy city train station, there lived a beggar who survived by asking passengers for money as they boarded and got off the trains. One day, he noticed a tall, well-dressed man. Thinking this man must be wealthy, he hurried over and held out his hand to ask for money. But instead of giving immediately, the man looked at him and asked, "You always ask from others, but have you ever given anything yourself?" Surprised, the beggar replied, "I am just a poor man. I have nothing to give." The man smiled and said, "If you cannot give, then you have no right to ask. I am a businessman, and I believe in the principle of give and take." With that, he boarded the train and left. Those words struck a chord deep inside the beggar. He began to wonder if he had been living the wrong way. Was his difficult life partly because he only took and never gave? This thought troubled him for days. From that moment, a small light flickered in his seemingly hopeless life, that no matter how poor a person is, they still have something to give. After days of struggle and feeling exhausted by his hardships, the beggar sought out a famous monk in the region, hoping to leave everything behind to find peace. Bowing, he said, "Master, I am tired of this life. One difficulty after another keeps coming. I no longer have the strength to fight. Please let me follow you and leave the world behind to find peace." The monk calmly looked at him and gently said, "You may stay and learn with me. But first, tell me what causes you such suffering." The beggar poured out all his worries, from basic survival struggles, family conflicts, to the despair of never having a peaceful day. The monk listened silently with compassion and finally said, "All right, tonight you rest in my humble hut. Tomorrow morning, we will go to another village." Though unsure what the master planned, the beggar obediently followed, carrying a small hope that his life was about to change. The next morning, the monk and the beggar set off to another village. On the way, they stopped by a wide river with fast, swirling water. Both stood silently before the vast flow. The monk pointed at the river and said, "We must cross this river to continue our journey." The beggar, seeing the strong current, asked worriedly, "Master, how can we cross such rushing water?" The monk said nothing and simply watched. After a moment, the beggar spoke again. "Should we wait until the water recedes? That would be safer." Then the monk smiled and said, "Do you think this river will ever dry up? It will always flow and never stop. If you wait for the water to recede before crossing, you will remain forever on the shore and never reach the other side." Understood. The monk's words weren't just about the river. They were a metaphor for life. Difficulties and challenges will never end. If you wait for perfect conditions before acting, you will remain stuck and never move forward. From that moment by the river, the beggar began to change his mindset. He realized that to change his life, he first had to change himself. A few days later, sitting by the station, he noticed small flowers blooming on a nearby bush. An idea struck him. Why not pick these flowers and give them to those who give me money? He tried it. That day, whenever someone gave him a coin on the train, he offered a fresh flower in return. Many people were surprised and smiled warmly at this small but heartfelt gesture. They kept the flowers like a charming gift. From then on, he picked flowers every morning to carry with him. Gradually, more people began to remember the flower-giving beggar and happily helped him. He realized that when you give, even the smallest thing, life responds with greater kindness. One day, he saw the tall man from before on the train again. Joyfully, he handed him a flower and said, "Today I have something to give you." The man smiled, accepted the flower, and said, "Well done. Now you are a businessman like me." At that moment, the beggar no longer saw himself as miserable. He had found his own worth, starting from a small thought to give. 6 months later, at the same train station where a poor beggar once stood, now appeared a well-dressed, confident man. On that platform, two well-dressed men happened to meet. One looked closely and asked, "Do you recognize me?" The other shook his head. "I don't think we've met." The man smiled. "We have met before, twice. The first time, you refused to give me money. The second time, you bought flowers from me on the train." Surprised, the other man said, "Oh my, you were the beggar, but today you look so different. What do you do now?" The man replied, "Yes, I was that beggar, but today I am a successful flower merchant. I am on my way to another city for business." He continued, "You taught me an important rule of life. To receive, you must first give. Back then, I didn't understand. But when I started giving flowers to those who helped me, I realized they weren't giving out of pity. They were paying for the value I offered. With that money, I built capital, expanded my flower business, and my life changed. This story proves that when we change how we see ourselves, the world changes with us. From a beggar with nothing, he rose up through faith, gratitude, and the proactive act of giving. This beggar-turned-merchant story carries a profound lesson about the power of mindset and the universal law of giving and receiving. Initially, he saw himself as poor and reliant on others' pity. But by changing his thinking, from only asking to also giving, even in small ways, his life turned completely around. The flowers he gave were more than gifts. They symbolized value, gratitude, and goodwill. He no longer begged, but sold kindness and sincere smiles, and that made all the difference. It shows us that change doesn't come from circumstances, but begins with how we view ourselves. If we see ourselves as unworthy, the world treats us the same. But when we believe in our value and bring value to others, the world starts to respond. Give and take is not just a business principle, but a deeply humane life philosophy. Success doesn't come from luck, but from inner transformation. When we dare to think differently, live differently, and act as contributors, no matter where we start, we can rise. No one is born a failure. We sometimes just forget who we can become. The beggar's journey to becoming a merchant is not just a life change, but clear proof of the power of belief and positive thinking. At first, he saw himself through a lens of poverty and helplessness, but from the moment he chose to give, starting with a flower, he began to see himself differently. He stopped begging and started creating value. What changed most wasn't the situation, but the inner awareness. When a person believes they can create something meaningful, the world will believe it too. The lesson is clear. Success depends not on where you are, but on how you see and act within your circumstances. We all can start with small things: a smile, a thank you, a kind act. Living with a spirit of giving and contributing means no matter who or where you are making a difference. Like the beggar, you can be the business person of your own life if you begin by believing in yourself. The story ends with a powerful message. No dream is too big, no situation too hopeless, if you dare to change your thinking and act toward a better future. The beggar did not wait for a miracle or rescue. He began with a simple act, offering a flower in return for kindness. From that small gesture, he gradually built a new life, a life of value, purpose, and hope. The key lies in inner transformation. When you stop seeing yourself as powerless and start believing you can create value, you find the way. The world doesn't change first. You do. Change how you see yourself and your actions will change too, and life will gradually turn positive. No one is born a failure. What sets us apart is how we face challenges and choose to respond. You can start over, no matter where you are, if you believe that by changing yourself, the whole world can change with you.